In a world fascinated with celebrity beauty and power couples, some of the most intriguing stories belong to people who quietly stand beside the spotlight rather than chasing it. While cameras usually focus on the famous names themselves, there are moments when the partner standing just off-center becomes equally captivating. That is exactly the case with Chelsea Clinton and her husband, Marc Mezvinsky. To many observers, Marc isn't just the husband of a prominent public figure. He's often described as one of the most strikingly handsome men connected to politics or high society. Tall, polished, and effortlessly charming, he carries the kind of presence that could easily belong to a magazine cover model. Yet, what makes him fascinating is that he rarely seems interested in that kind of attention. Instead, he lives a life that blends intelligence, discretion, and quiet confidence. While the world often focuses on the legacy of Chelsea's parents, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, Marc has built a story that feels uniquely his own. He's the kind of figure who shows that influence doesn't always come from the loudest voice in the room. Sometimes it belongs to the person who stands calmly beside it. And as recent discussions about political families, philanthropy, and public service continue trending in global news cycles, the curiosity around people like Marc has only grown stronger. Understanding why many people call him one of the most handsome men in the world requires looking beyond appearances. His story is shaped by heritage, ambition, family life, and a subtle charisma that seems to grow stronger the more people learn about him. Marc Mezvinsky's life began in an environment deeply connected to politics and public service. Born in the United States, to a family already familiar with the corridors of government, he grew up hearing conversations about policy, leadership, and civic responsibility. His parents, Edward Mezvinsky and Marjorie Margolyes, both served as members of the U.S. Congress. This upbringing meant that Marc spent his early years surrounded by discussions about national issues and global affairs. For many children, such conversations might seem overwhelming, but for him, they created a foundation of curiosity and awareness. He learned early that influence carries responsibility and that public life often demands both intelligence and patience. Despite growing up around politics, Marc did not immediately seek the spotlight. Instead, he focused on building a strong academic path. His education eventually led him to the respected University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League institution known for producing leaders in business, finance, and politics. There, he sharpened his analytical thinking and developed a reputation as someone thoughtful and intellectually driven. People who knew him during those years often described him as approachable, despite his impressive background. While some students with political connections might have leaned into that identity, Marc preferred to keep things balanced. He focused on friendships, ideas, and opportunities that would allow him to carve out a personal path rather than simply following a political blueprint. Even at that stage, his appearance didn't go unnoticed. Standing over 6 feet tall with striking features and expressive hazel eyes, he carried a natural elegance that made people look twice. But those who met him quickly realized that his charm wasn't just physical. His calm demeanor and thoughtful conversations created an impression that lasted longer than any first glance. The combination of intelligence, humility, and quiet confidence became the defining theme of his early life. Rather than chasing fame, Marc appeared to be preparing for something more balanced, an existence where success would come through dedication rather than spectacle. And as fate would have it, this thoughtful young man would eventually reconnect with someone whose life was already tied to one of the most recognizable political families in the world. The relationship between Marc Mezvinsky and Chelsea Clinton is not the kind of whirlwind romance often seen among public figures. Instead, it is a story built slowly over many years. Their first meeting reportedly took place when they were teenagers at a political event in the 1990s. Both came from families involved in public service, which meant they understood the unusual pressures that come with growing up around national attention. That shared experience formed the foundation of a friendship long before romance entered the picture. For several years, their lives moved along separate paths. They focused on their education and early careers, occasionally reconnecting through mutual friends and family circles. But the familiarity they shared from their teenage years created a natural comfort that many relationships struggled to develop. Eventually, as adults, the friendship evolved into something deeper. By the late 2000s, the two had become a committed couple. Their wedding in 2010 in Rhinebeck, New York, quickly became one of the most talked-about social events of that year. The ceremony brought together political leaders, family members, and close friends, symbolizing the merging of two influential families. Yet, despite the grandeur surrounding the event, those who attended often noted how personal the celebration felt. It wasn't designed to be a spectacle, but rather a reflection of their relationship, warm, thoughtful, and deeply rooted in shared values. Friends frequently describe Marc as someone whose calm personality balances Chelsea's highly visible public role. While Chelsea has worked extensively with the Clinton Foundation, and frequently speaks on global health and humanitarian issues, Marc tends to support these efforts quietly from the background. Their partnership represents a rare example of stability in a world where high-profile relationships often struggle under public pressure. Rather than competing for attention, they appear to complement one another. Marc provides a steady presence, while Chelsea continues to engage in public advocacy and philanthropy. Over time, their relationship has grown into a family life centered on shared priorities and mutual respect. For a couple connected to such a prominent political legacy, maintaining that balance is no small achievement. While Marc Mezvinsky is widely known because of his marriage, his professional journey stands firmly on its own. After completing his studies, he entered the competitive world of finance. He worked with major financial institutions and eventually helped establish the investment firm Eaglevale Partners. The firm focused on global macroeconomic strategies, analyzing large-scale economic trends and international markets. Working in finance requires precision, discipline, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. Those qualities suited Marc perfectly. Colleagues often described him as someone who approached complex problems with patience and strategic thinking. Like many entrepreneurs in the financial world, his career included both successes and challenges. Economic shifts and global market changes forced constant adaptation, yet those experiences also helped refine his understanding of international finance and investment. In recent years, conversations around responsible investing and sustainable business practices have become increasingly important in the financial sector. Many modern investors now focus not only on profit, but also on environmental and social impact. Marc has shown interest in these evolving trends, aligning with broader discussions about ethical investment strategies. Outside traditional finance, he has also supported philanthropic initiatives connected to education and global health, causes that overlap with Chelsea Clinton's own work. Their shared commitment to humanitarian projects highlights a partnership that extends beyond personal life into broader social goals. While his career rarely generates the same headlines as political developments or celebrity news, it demonstrates something equally compelling: a person building influence through expertise rather than publicity. And perhaps that quiet professionalism is part of what makes his presence so appealing. Physical appearance alone does not usually define a person's reputation, but in Marc Mezvinsky's case, it certainly contributes to the fascination surrounding him. Standing approximately 6 feet 3 inches tall, he carries the kind of height and posture that naturally draws attention in a crowded room. His sharp cheekbones, defined jawline, and expressive eyes give him a look often compared to high-fashion models. Yet his demeanor remains relaxed rather than dramatic. When attending formal events, he often appears in classic tailored suits, clean lines, understated colors, and a style that emphasizes elegance without excess. The look reflects someone who understands presentation but doesn't feel the need to dominate a room. Observers sometimes joke that he looks like a GQ model who wandered into a policy conference. But the humor behind that comparison highlights a genuine point. Marc's appearance blends seamlessly with environments ranging from charity galas to diplomatic gatherings. Even more striking is his body language. Rather than using exaggerated gestures or theatrical expressions, he communicates with subtlety. His conversations appear thoughtful, and his calm presence often makes others feel at ease. This quiet confidence adds depth to his physical attractiveness. It suggests a man comfortable in his own identity rather than someone performing for attention. In a world increasingly dominated by social media performance and constant public display, that authenticity feels refreshing. Many people find that combination good looks paired with humility far more appealing than flashy celebrity charisma. And it contributes to the growing perception that Marc Mezvinsky represents a different kind of modern public figure. Beyond career achievements and public appearances, Marc's most meaningful role may simply be that of a family man. Together, Marc and Chelsea Clinton are raising 3 children: Charlotte Clinton Mezvinsky, Aidan Clinton Mezvinsky, and Jasper Clinton Mezvinsky. For parents connected to one of America's most recognizable political families, maintaining privacy for their children is incredibly important. The couple has consistently worked to keep their family life relatively shielded from excessive media attention. Friends and acquaintances often describe Marc as a hands-on father who enjoys the everyday moments of parenting. Whether it's attending school events or reading bedtime stories, he reportedly embraces the quieter responsibilities of family life. These small routines may seem ordinary, but for people living under public scrutiny, they require deliberate effort. Protecting a sense of normalcy for children raised in such circumstances can be challenging, yet it appears to be a priority for both parents. Chelsea Clinton has occasionally spoken about how supportive Marc is behind the scenes. His steady nature provides a foundation that allows her to focus on professional commitments and public initiatives. The partnership reflects a balance rarely highlighted in political or celebrity stories, one person stepping forward publicly while the other provides stability behind the scenes. That dynamic may not generate dramatic headlines, but it represents something many people admire: a relationship built on cooperation rather than competition. In an age where social media encourages constant visibility, Marc Mezvinsky stands out for the opposite reason. He maintains a relatively low digital profile and rarely seeks public attention. While Chelsea Clinton often engages with audiences through interviews, speeches, and social platforms, Marc prefers to remain largely out of that spotlight. This difference allows the family to manage public exposure carefully. His limited media presence has created a certain sense of intrigue. Because he appears only occasionally at public events or charitable functions, people remain curious about the man behind the headlines. This deliberate distance from the spotlight contrasts with many modern celebrity partners who actively build personal brands online. Instead of sharing daily updates or personal details, Marc allows his actions, professional work, family dedication, and philanthropy to speak for themselves. For many observers, that restraint adds to his appeal. It suggests a level of confidence that doesn't rely on constant validation. In a culture where public figures often compete for attention, choosing privacy can feel surprisingly powerful. And that choice reinforces the idea that Marc Mezvinsky represents a quieter, more traditional version of influence. When people describe someone as the most handsome man in the world, they often focus purely on physical features. But in Marc Mezvinsky's case, the phrase seems to reflect something broader. Yes, he has the height, facial structure, and polished style that fit traditional standards of attractiveness. Yet the admiration surrounding him also comes from qualities that extend beyond appearance: intellect, humility, loyalty, and emotional steadiness. Comparisons are sometimes made between Marc and famous Hollywood figures like Chris Hemsworth or Ryan Reynolds, both widely regarded as some of the most handsome actors in the entertainment world. While those celebrities thrive in the spotlight, Marc's charm exists in a quieter dimension. He represents the idea that attractiveness can be rooted in character rather than spectacle. Instead of relying on red carpet glamour, his appeal grows from the way he carries himself: calm, thoughtful, and supportive. In many ways, this makes him relatable, despite his elite background. People see a man who balances career success with family life and public responsibility. That combination resonates strongly in an era where authenticity is increasingly valued. And perhaps that's the real reason why conversations about him continue to circulate online and in media discussions. He reminds people that true presence doesn't always come from being the loudest person in the room. Looking at Marc Mezvinsky's life as a whole reveals a story that blends privilege with personal effort, intelligence with humility, and visibility with restraint. He grew up surrounded by politics, yet chose a path in finance and philanthropy. He married into one of America's most famous families, yet maintained his own identity. And, despite possessing the kind of appearance that could easily attract celebrity attention, he remains committed to a private and grounded lifestyle. That combination is rare. In a culture that often celebrates spectacle, Marc represents something quieter but equally compelling. His influence comes from stability rather than drama, and his attractiveness reflects character as much as physical appearance. For many observers, that is precisely what makes him stand out. The world may be full of famous faces, but not all of them carry the same sense of calm confidence and authenticity. And perhaps that is why, when people jokingly or sometimes seriously call Chelsea Clinton's husband the most handsome man in the world, the compliment feels about more than just looks. It speaks to the deeper qualities that define him: intelligence, loyalty, grace, and a life lived with quiet purpose. In the end, Marc Mezvinsky's story proves that sometimes the most compelling figures are not the ones chasing the spotlight, but the ones who illuminate it simply by standing nearby.